I love that idea of positivity. So lots of people talk about positivity before going to sleep, of course, and all the other things. You know, don't eat before going to sleep, meditate, drink a lot of water, prevent yourself from headache. Think about your day, what you're going to do the next day, and well, I think positivity is also a very good thing. So how does that work with reflecting on your day or looking forward to the next one?
So I always do like an end of day reflection. So I have a wind down period at the end of every day. It's always a reflection. So you've been in my Discord server. You see how I
Yes.
post my daily reflections. So really what that is that's me focusing on the things that went right today, the things that need improvement, the things that I'm grateful for, and then what my bottom line up front is for tomorrow. So what that does is that allows me to reflect on the day of the things that I did right, the things that I can work on, some things that I might be able to modify, tweak, or change. And then I just like, okay, here's my daily gratitude. So I start the day with gratitude and I end the day with gratitude. It's like, who or what was I grateful for today? And I always want to make sure that I highlight those things or those people that I'm grateful for. A lot of times it's people that I'm grateful for. So like today, for example, I was grateful for the conversations that I had. I had some truly amazing conversations today across all platforms to include Clubhouse here on IG, on Facebook, and then I made a few phone calls. So, and then I make sure that I set my intention for tomorrow, the next day, my bottom line up front. So tomorrow, my intention is to go into the office. I have to get up and make the drive into the office tomorrow and focus on a couple of things over there and then come back. I'm going to go to the gym and then come back home. So really it's about setting those intentions, winding down and reflecting and thinking about the day, because at the end of the day, the last thing that you want to do is worry about, oh my goodness, today sucked. Look at all this that went wrong, whatever the case may be. I try not to focus on those types of things. So quick shout out to Million Dollar Dude. He's an old buddy of mine, Raheem. Truly one of my great mentors, someone that I love talking business with. And we've had some truly amazing, life-changing, business-changing conversations together. So quick shout out to him. If you are, if you do want to learn YouTube and ads and marketing and advertising, he's a truly great guy to get connected with. So once again, quick shout out to Million Dollar Dude right there. Old buddy of mine I've known for more than 10 years. So every day, once again, it's a process. It's a journey. It's one of those things that I have to do intentionally, because if I don't focus on those things intentionally, I will unintentionally go down rabbit holes I do not want to go down. So the idea is to slow down. I have my water. I've got my mushroom coffee, or not coffee, but mushroom tea over here. I've got... and then I've got my meditation stuff that I can do to wind down. And then when I'm actually laying down in bed, what I'll do is I'll put on my headphones and I will put on frequency music, certain frequencies, certain tones, certain, things to just kind of put myself into a deep, relaxed state. And I'm focused on the tone. I'm thinking, I'm calming down, I'm focusing. And within about 5 minutes, I'm drifting off into space. And I'm asleep.
You're using the binaural beats probably with the little difference in frequency, right?
That's a part of it. So I got different types of frequencies that I listen to. Binaural beats is one of them. There's a couple of different frequencies. I can't remember the numbers right off the top of my head. It's like 583 or something along those lines. And
there are a couple with different purposes. That's correct.
Yeah. So I love it. It's one of those things that when you have a nightly routine and you're intentional about that routine, you look forward to it. You enjoy it. You're like, man, I can't wait to do this at night. So for me, it's always a matter of positivity, because throughout the day, trust me when I tell you that throughout the day, there's a lot of negative that does happen. And I tend to fight through a lot of those things, struggle with those things. But I don't stay in those things. I don't live in those things. And oftentimes I see people live in those things. They live in those emotions. And that's how people get stuck. And they never really move past or beyond those things that they're just getting stuck at. And when you stay in that, you live in that, you will always be in that. And you will never look forward to that. It's kind of like the old saying goes, I know where I'm going because I know where I've been. But it's because I know where I've been, I'm not going to go back there, because that's not where I'm going.
Oh yeah, I agree. And of course, the expression, misery loves company. That's something we absolutely want to avoid.
Yeah.
So,
I agree with that. You know, and there's a lot of, I call them like chatterboxes. They just love to get around, you know, miserable people and just talk about woe is me and miserable this and miserable that and this, that, and the other. And they're not really helping each other. They're not serving one another. You know, and that's the power of what you do. I love what you do because you take things from an approach of observance, and then you look for the strengths and you identify the strengths and you focus on those strengths and you give people a plan of action that they can take moving forward instead of continuously wanting to step back. And that's what I love about you, Lexi, is that you're always equipping people instead of tearing them down or keeping them where it is that they don't belong.
thank you, thank you. That means a lot to me that you're saying so. Yeah, I guess a long time ago I learned that, you know, things can be hard in life, and we can, you know, be like, why did this happen? But at some point, if you can turn it around and make it into something positive, that really helps. So one of my clients a while ago, he said, you know, you have this tendency that we talk about things and then that drags me down, and then the next day I wake up worse than ever. And I said, well, it could be true because you don't follow the system. So my system is, we talk about certain things which aren't easy because I want to avoid Pandora's box being closed. I said, but once you do, then I can make that shift towards something positive and change it around so you actually feel good about what you've done. And usually people don't see this when it comes to changes, but when I point out, see what you have done? This has happened. This has happened. This is the action you have taken. You've changed this. You don't stand up with this anymore. You've chosen for yourself. And that's when they start to realize, oh yeah, that's true. Yeah, I've done those things. But it's like a certain structure, and when you interrupt the structure and you don't want to feel anything, that's when things can get out of balance. But if you dare to just touch upon it quickly and then look at, but this is what I've achieved because of it, you know, that makes the world a completely different place. I mean, I remember when I was in Spain last summer, and just before that, I had twisted my knee and I was really bummed, like, oh, I'm back on crutches. And then I was there and I was walking like 2 miles with those crutches. And when I returned back, I pretty quickly got my brace. And ever since, I've been walking without those crutches because I knew I could walk. And I can't tell you what the difference that's made. So yesterday when I went to the concert, I had a concert for the first time in 2 years where I went to. It was amazing. So my surgeon actually said, you know, don't mind going to the wheelchair places. You need to sit anyway. So I did, but it felt a little bit lonely. But then afterwards, I met up with friends and we had such a good time. And it was like, yeah, they're right. It does hit more comfortable than sitting on a bar stool. And, you know, it was actually kind of fun, you know, crossing in and out of the elevator and that thing.
I love it. You know, when every concert that I've ever went to, I've always stood the entire time because I've always had like a lot, like front row seats or somewhere along the lines there. And I'll never forget. It's like everybody stands up, then they stand up on their chair, and then they like put the woman on their shoulders, and it's like, man, you got to look up, you got to try to figure out what you can see.
Anything anymore.
And it's one of those things to where even like sports games. So I've went to like sports games, for example, and so I remember going to a football game. So I'm in Nashville, Tennessee, and I'm at the stadium there where the Tennessee Titans play, and we're watching this. It's a college bowl game, so it was like Texas and A&M versus Louisville. It's a college bowl game. And we were standing the whole time. And thank goodness that I had my family and I had a buddy of mine with me. So I ended up talking to them more than I ended up watching the game, you know, because it was one of those things that everybody was standing. I was like, I can see, but it's like I can't really see. So it is what it is.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why I try to be front row, literally the first row. leaning against the fences or the stage because I'm not that tall. And nowadays, with all those young kids,
Yeah.
they're over 6 feet tall.
Oh
I
yeah.
can't see anything. So,
Yeah. So,
yeah, but I love to jump,
what's a bit
front
of
row.
tactical advice that you have? So every day is an opportunity to achieve success, right?
Yeah.
And you know as well as I do that it takes processes, it takes things in place, systems in place. You know, a lot of times people think it's just, oh, I'm going to wake up and just whatever happens, happens. And, you know, and sometimes that's the right thing to do. And sometimes that's like, you know, you could end up down a rabbit hole you don't really want to go down. So what does a good day look like for you?
Well, usually it starts the day before, or sometimes a
Hmm.
few days before. And so I know already what I want to achieve, like in either the next few weeks or the next few days. And especially when I have a certain project in mind, lately involving all the videos I'm doing, like, okay, how can I get people to see them, improve the thumbnails, maybe the recordings itself. And with going live a lot, there's a lot of editing to do because
Hmm.
when we talk like here on Instagram, then I say, hi guys and girls, and we're talking about how are you doing, how am I doing. That's nice and all, but that's not going to work on YouTube.
Hmm.
So it's knowing those things that I'm like, okay, what have I done, and how can I change it, edit it for the better, and then when I have the opportunity, so depending on, I really have some things to do to meet people, physical therapy, that stuff. But if I have time left, and especially when the sun is out there, I'll try and get my notebook out there, literally with a pencil, sometimes with my iPad, but normally no. And I'll go sit in the sun, have a latte, and I'll start writing my ideas down. And by doing so, and also involving other people, that usually helps me to stick to my schedule. So today I didn't stick to my schedule, and I really don't like it. I'll be honest about it. But last Monday it was the same story, and I was like, okay, if it's going to happen anyway, let's see if I can do it at least with someone else. So Michael, he had a family emergency last minute. So we
Hmm.
already had postponed it, and then I decided to go live alone anyway, which was good. And I still had in mind, like, okay, this is structure I want to follow. So, to get people to understand what it's about immediately. And those things, um, but especially combined with the creativity, mixed with what can I do, which is good for my health, like moving around. So it's like a combination of things, but it's almost always linked to, can I go outside? Is the weather good enough for it? Can I be creative? And also writing down the ideas linked to, okay, how can I uplift other people, whether it's with pictures or with videos or all that other stuff. And then, of course, there are the normal things. So I also have a calendar, so I check it before I go to sleep, like, okay, this is what I can expect. So before the week starts, I also know, like, okay, this is what I really need to do. And for all other stuff, you know, um, I know the important things, and I guess that's the difference. So I know
Hmm.
when you are going live, I know when Sen is going live, I know when I'm going live, and I know, okay, that's when I want to prepare. And it's just about improving every day, about improving. I guess that's it. The
Yeah.
taking one step in order to get just that little bit better.
I get it. You know, and it's about setting those intentions and then taking intentional action. So you hit on something this morning about sharing certain things. What'd you think of that sunrise I posted this morning?
Oh, I loved it. I loved it.
Yeah,
I saw it and I was like, oh, that's beautiful.
it
And
was. It was gorgeous.
yeah, and every once in a while, I'll when I'm driving, I'll put my camera on the dashboard and I do time lapse, so you can
Mm.
actually see the sunrise. So, but back in the days, I used to go to the beach a lot and watch the sunset actually. And I've got tons of pictures. And I remember when I was in San Diego, I actually went to well, there's a beach over there. I forgot the name. Um, and I also recorded that. I love it. And, you know, I saw it and a huge smile on my face when I saw your picture.
And it was actually that purple. So when I walked downstairs, I was like, ooh, I like that. Because the first thing that I do when I walk downstairs and onto the first level of our house, I always see right out the little window spot that we have, and I can kind of see what the day is like. And when I saw purple, I was like, ooh, I'm going to go outside. So I went out on the front porch. I took a couple pictures, shot a little video, made a reel. And man, I love that. To be able to start the day with a great sunrise like that, and then end the day with a really fabulous sunset. So the way that my house is positioned, I get the best of both. I get a great sunrise and a great sunset every single day. I love it.
Ah, that's cool.
And, and it's a part of,
yeah, go on.
it's a part of those things that you look forward to. And I think that's something that people are missing nowadays, is things that they look forward to. You know, there's so much negativity that's going out in the world that I just don't focus on it anymore. It's one of those things that I control the one thing that I can control, and that's where I focus, where my time and my attention goes. And I think that a lot of people don't have their own time and their own attention. And, you know, and I like to call it headspace and timing. That's what I like to call it, headspace and timing. What is your headspace and timing? Where is your headspace at? And what is the timing of your actions? And I truly believe that has a lot to do with why people are not successful these days. And it's like, if you watch the news, you're going to get sucked in. If you watch the weather, you're going to get sucked in. If you listen to conversation and you join in on that negative chatter, you're not going to achieve success. So the thing is that a lot of people, whether it's in life or whether it's in business, they're wondering why they're not getting anywhere, why I'm not achieving results, why am I not achieving this, why that? I was like, well, look, take a good solid look at the intentional actions that you are taking each and every day and how those negative things affect you. Because those positive things, don't get me wrong, those positive things will affect you as well too. But those negative things will have a far more significant impact on your life than any of those positive things will. I'd rather do those positive things because I'm in control of that. I might not be in control of the results, but I can control my actions, my attitude towards those things, and the actions towards those things. So that's what I tend to focus on every single day, is the things that I can kind of control. Now, don't get me wrong. Each and every day, I have to maneuver. I have to figure things, because things tend to get in the way, roadblocks, little things that want to kind of nag at my time, or, you know, a phone call, a text, a message, someone on social media, whatever the case may be. I get that. That's a normal part of every day. But I get really intentional about the times and when and who. So if I allowed everybody within my life, well, nothing would be a priority. If I allowed everything to get in my headspace and timing, then nothing is important. So that's the reason why it's important to block out things at the beginning of the day, the end of the day, and during the middle of that day, kind of set an intention to where you are doing a reset, an evaluation, if you will. Where am I at? What have I done so far? What do I need to do to continue on that second half of the day? You know, you're connected with Brendan Bouchard, and you know exactly what I'm talking about. Each and every day, you set those little alarms, those little checks along the way to either interrupt the pattern or to do a check or a self-assessment of where you're at. And I love doing that because it keeps you on track all day long. What are your thoughts?
That's well, I agree. It's about that reset, and of course, there are some things we can't avoid.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like going to the gas station, then I know what's going on, and I'm bound to have a conversation with someone about it. So, you know, but apart from that, and that's the thing I'm living by the most, it's always getting back, like maybe not every minute, but well, a lot of times a day, to the things I'm grateful for. And as you know, I've got a lot of things to be grateful for. And every time I'm walking on 2 feet, every time, again and again, no matter where I am, and I'm walking that little distance, that's gratitude, you know, all over. And I guess that's the most important thing. And even when people reach out to me and they're not feeling good, I listen to them, but I do try to have them end with positive note. But yes, as for news and all that other stuff, a lot of things I don't look at my phone, or I don't check anything, because I want to work on my own stuff first. And then I do have some little things. So pretty soon I'll have like 2 letters here tattooed on my hand, if my tattoo artist agrees. So it'll be an M and a V, and together they create motivation and movement. They also mean something else, but that's a nice way to look at it. And like, okay, hang on. And also I got a picture on my phone, which also reminds me, like, okay, let's go for it. Now stop doing whatever it is and go do it. But it's, you know, if there's one thing I've learned in this life, it's like, you never know when you can do something or when you cannot do something. So make the most of it when you can. I mean, we both know what it's like to not have a voice. And for some reason, every time I want to go live or do a challenge, that's when my voice seems to disappear. So I've learned not to wait till the last moment to do it. And like, okay, and let's see what I can do in order to still have it and go on. And those, I think if you have that mentality, like, okay, let's celebrate every little thing, just be grateful for it, and also take advantage, especially that one. Take advantage of every little moment. So like what you did with the sunrise. I'm actually known to get out of the car. Of course, I can't do it on the highway, but whenever I walk and I see a beautiful sunset or I see sunrise, usually it will be a sunset in my case, then I will, you know, I'll take a picture, I'll record a video, and it's, you know, it's those beautiful things. And later on in life, I'll, you know, just get back to it. And you know, it's surrounding yourself also with positivity. So I'm getting a new brace for my right knee, and I had to come up with a design. And today or yesterday I decided, you know what, there are going to be 2 pin-ups on there, and actually they are made, they're related to me, so they're me with 1 crutch each. But they represent how far I've come. And it's actually kind of funny because on there you see me with a crutch, and of course I'm not walking with a crutch anymore. But it's, you know, it's, I know what it represents. It represents living the life, me out on the road. And, you know, at first I was a little like okay, that's a shame they can do the same one, but then in the mirrored version. Well, I like this actually one, and it's a tribute to someone else who I hold very dearly. So, and that's the thing. It's like, okay, when you do something, do it with intention. And that's what you basically said, doing things with intention. And that makes all the difference. And I guess that's something Brendan talks about too, intention.
Yeah, I missed today's event. I believe there was an event today.
Yeah,
I think he had,
Mel
Abraham and Lisa Bilyeu was on there, so I'll have to watch the replay. And I know that's inside of Growth Day right there. So I have Growth Day as well too, and I love it. It's one of those things that I got to kind of play catch up on a few things with it.
Yeah, I love it when Anthony Trucks is on. He's amazing. Yeah,
he's a truly phenomenal guy. So we're following each other on Instagram, me and Anthony. So I love engaging with him and his content. And I'll never forget one of the Zoom calls that I was on with him. I don't know what got over him, but he was talking and I just did my thing and started jumping up and down kind of at the deal. And he just like stopped mid presentation. It was like, "Hey Terry, I see you jumping, you're getting excited," kind of a thing. So it was like he stopped just to kind of point out. I think maybe it was because I was a distraction, but it was one of those things.
No. He does it more often,
Really?
When he sees people are paying attention,
and
he says, "I see you."
I see. Okay.
Yeah.
I thought that was kind of unique. I thought it was kind of awesome to be able to, grab somebody's attention and get them to stop, in presentation. But here's one of the things that I do like about Anthony. It's really, it's a really unique thing about his presentations is that he uses prezi. he uses Prezi for his presentation. So it's like he's still on the screen and you see those little slide things that kind of pop up like that. Yeah, I actually just signed up for Prezi the other day. So I'm looking at integrating Prezi within some of the things that I do. I love it. And I got that from Anthony. And, you know, and it's one of those things that I can now put in my toolkit. So when I do my presentations here soon, I'll start using Prezi hopefully to make that look a little better.
Oh, that sounds cool. That sounds cool. Well, going back to what you said, I do believe that it's not a regular thing because I don't think most people are really paying attention. Mm-hmm. So when he does say, "Hey, I see you," mm-hmm. Yeah, it's part of his routine, but it does make you unique. So don't count it out.
Yeah, I tend to focus a little bit, so I'm very aware of a lot of the things that are going on, like especially if I'm in a clubhouse conversation or I'm on a live stream or on something. It's a matter of being aware, and that's something that I think you and I previously talked about. So when you're having conversations with people, when you're engaging with people, a lot of times people are passively listening, passively there, just, you know, occupying that headspace and timing, whereas if you're a great host, you're a great teacher, mentor, coach, whatever label you want to put on it, first and foremost, you're a great listener, and then you're a great observer. So for me, the first thing that I learned how to do over the years is to read body language. Body language says it all. And I'll tell you right now, and I think you and I had this conversation before, the most expressive body part is the eyebrows. I love it. It's the eyebrows. Yes. And if you really want to engage, or you really want to gauge like how the conversation is going or what you're saying is resonating with the person, look at their eyebrows, because it'll give away. They'll be confused. They'll be excited. They'll lean in. They'll be like all these different emotions. The eyebrows are the most emotional body part.
Yeah,
and it's amazing.
So that's a little bit of a bummer when people use Botox. That's also what people, of course, always say. You're using Botox. I can see if you're smiling.
Yeah. So if you look at my forehead right there, I've got two big muscles right there. Mm-hmm. And someone asked me one time, it's like, why are you so mad? Why are you so angry? I was like, I'm not. I just have really strong eyebrows.
Yeah.
My forehead's been to the gym a lot. You know what I'm saying? It's buff. And it's one of those things to where it was like, look, I'm not mad. I'm not upset. I'm not angry or anything like that. Like right now, I'm having a great time talking. If you look right there, it looks like I'm upset. It looks like I got a strong forehead. I'm telling you.
No. You're smiling. There's so much more to the face than just weather. You know, it's the whole thing that makes it. But I like what you say about the eyebrows. It's true. And you know, I always think it's kind of funny when people are saying one thing and they mean another, because you can basically tell by the way their whole fight, their whole system, you know, it expresses something, and they're like, yeah, well, if you don't agree, you can just say it to me, you know.
You know, and that was one of the first things. So as a leader, that was one of the first things that I dove into, was the expressive language of body language. And you can really tell a lot from another person, especially from a leadership standpoint, is that when you're yelling at someone, when you're mentoring someone, when you're coaching someone, you're just having a casual conversation with someone, you can truly tell a lot about that conversation by the body language of the other ones. I'll tell you another little tactic that I use. Some people, they like to look at people straight in the eyes. I don't do it. I look at their mouth, because you can really tell a lot by looking at the person's mouth. And for me, over the last couple of years, you know, with masks on everything, it was truly tough for me because I was forced to look at people's eyes at that point. And that's when I started noticing the eyebrows. I was like, ooh, that's different. You know, kind of a thing. But for years, I always spent looking at people right at their mouth. It was like I was reading their lips. I was looking at the way that they kind of smirked a little bit. I was looking at all the different nuances of how the mouth moved, because you could really tell whether a conversation is going really well, not going really well, whether it's positive, negative, by how their mouth moves. Because if I'm smiling, I'm having a great conversation, or if I'm just sitting here gritting my teeth and I'm talking to you like, yes, I don't really care to be here. You know, it's all these different nuances of the mouth that really meant a lot. last couple of years, I really started learning how to look at the eyebrows and the eyes, because that really gives away a lot of things. So when you look at body language, you look at whether someone's slumped over, you look at whether they're like, they're thinking, they're kind of digging in. All these different things kind of work together. So as a coach, as a mentor, as a teacher, as a person, body language is important. What do you think?
Yeah, and also the leaning in, not leaning in, and also the energy level. That makes it a huge difference. But it's, you can smile with your mouth and you cannot smile with your eyes. It's a very weird combination. And I guess it's the discrepancy in the face. Like, what does one part say and what does the other part do? And that basically tells so much. Also, like the enthusiasm in the voice. And so those are the little bits that we all can pick up on. I love what you say about the mouth. I'm just going to observe it. I'm really going to observe it. I love it.
See, now you're going to start looking at people a little bit different. Like, what are you looking at? Are you staring at me? Well, yes, yes, I am staring at you. Kind of a thing. So it's one of those things that you can like either freak someone out or weird them out. A lot of times, I tell you what, I'll stand there as I'm listening to them. I'll be like, no emotions, no nothing. I'm just intently listening. Somebody, and that kind of freaks people out. That weirds people out when you do something like that. So, and especially when they say something and you don't initially or immediately react, that's kind of so I'm just sitting there listening intently. And then when they're done, there's like that short pause. Yep. Kind of a thing. So then you can kind of dig into that conversation a little bit differently. And a lot of times whenever you're having a conversation with people, sometimes people are looking for that immediate reaction versus that intentional action within a conversation. And sometimes when you find yourself within a conversation, this is what I love. A lot of people tend to react instead of intentionally act within the conversation. And I think that's what causes a lot of trouble, tribulations, trials, tribulations, trouble within conversation, is that when you react versus act. And I think that if you listen more clearly whenever you're talking to people or whenever you're listening to people, listen not necessarily to speak, listen so that you can learn. And I believe that's truly power, because a lot of people passively listen so that they can actively speak versus actively.
I get it.
You get that, see, versus actively listening so that you can actively learn. And when you actively listen, you can actively learn. And then at that point, you can understand. And when you understand, you can speak. Because here's the thing. If you want to be understood, you must first seek to understand. What are your thoughts?
Yeah. Well, I was listening to the way your voice changed. And I was like, oh, yeah, that's Terry when he closes, certain things.
That's called inflection.
I love it when your voice changes like that.
That's called inflection.
So and that's one of the things I usually listen to is the change in intonation of people. So that's when So but getting back to it, there's active listening. It depends on the role I play. So there's active listening and me writing like crazy. You've seen me do that before. And then there's active listening and me sitting back, especially when I'm a bystander and I can just observe things and then come back, at some point. And then there's me being like, okay, I'm the one who's hosting this, or I'm the leader. And then I'm way more active. You can see me more involved. I'm listening none the same. But this is the thing. When I have to follow a certain structure, you can bet I'm listening far less when it comes to quality than I would like to. Because I get distracted by the whole structure thing. So I have to put it somewhere where I don't have to look at it. And that's why I love spontaneous conversations way more. Okay, give me one topic, maybe 3 points I'll write down, and then at some point I'll check it. But just let it flow, and It's
Mhm.
always nice, but it's,
See, like
when
the
I'm really,
conversation that you and I are having right now, this is a free flowing conversation. Like we had no
yeah,
agenda. It was just like, hey, let's go live. Okay, what are we talking about? I don't care. Let's go.
positivity.
You know,
Positivity. We said about
we
positivity.
originally started with positivity, and then look at all the
Yeah,
different great things that we're conversated about. And I think that when you allow a conversation to take on many turns, it's enjoyable. And
yeah,
I know that myself, you know, when you have strict, rigid rules on certain things. Now, don't get me wrong, I love strict, rigid rules. I love that because and you've been a part of some of my shows where I've kept them very rigid and right down the middle. There's no left and right limit. This is where we're going. This is what we're doing. This is the intent. This is the goal. If anything tries to get in the middle of that, I'm going to crush it and knock it the hell out of the way. I've been there. I've done that. I enjoy conversations like this where it's kind of free flowing because then we can be natural, be more kind of ourselves a little bit. And it's one of those things that you tend to not hold back with how you're presenting certain things. And I remember, I'll share something with you very quickly. I remember my very first conversation with Evan, live conversation. I'm talking about the first time that I ever talked to him. I felt like a robot. I felt so out of place and so robotic. And I go back and listen to that conversation from 2 years ago, and I'm sitting here like, who the hell was that guy? You know, kind of a thing. And I still, even the last conversation, like the live video conversation I had, I was still a little rigid, but a little bit more loose. But I've also had those really good conversations, you know, even on Clubhouse and in different, you know, platforms like Instagram, where it's just been a conversation. And I think that when you allow yourself to be vulnerable, transparent, and just have a conversation, you're going to get more out of that, more value.
yeah, I agree. I agree. And that's why, just keeping in mind, like, okay, this is what we want to keep in the back of our heads. And
Hmm.
as for all else, just let it happen. And I
Yeah.
know there is no right or wrong. I
Hmm.
mean, we know our basic standards when it comes to respect about, being uplifting. And yes, we can be open, we can be vulnerable, and sometimes things happen and we get emotional.
Hmm.
And that's actually not a bad thing either to get
Yeah.
emotional. I mean, people love it.
Hmm. See,
And
I got my
and
framework right there. There's my framework. I
yeah,
have a framework right there. And when I'm doing a show or when I'm doing a video or something, I have a framework. And that's all that it is. It's a framework. If I drift a little
yeah.
bit off from the framework, so be it. You know, it's one of those things that I'm not going to get bent out of shape if I didn't stay right down the middle, you know, whatever the case may be. But I also believe in bringing the energy, and you know that as well as anybody else. That when you bring that energy, when you bring that level, like you got to dig into it sometimes because that's what makes it exciting. That's what makes it good to listen to. That's the reason why I mentioned inflection, that rise and fall in the pitch and tone of the voice. That allows you to take people on a journey, and when you take people on a journey through a story, it's like you start off. You build up, you get excited, you wind down, you have a call to action, you do all these different things with the inflection, the tone, the speed, the pace of your voice. You are allowed to take people on a journey they never thought was possible. But remember this, you're the conductor of that conversation, you're the conductor on that train, and when you're running smoothly on smooth tracks, people will enjoy the ride.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. So, one question. Do
Mm-hmm.
you now do this spontaneously, or do you still, with the intonations and with the going faster and then slowing down? Because I've noticed, and by the way, Joe's still waiting for the train, so I'm glad that we're talking to one another. Yep,
And I
and
just
then the
mentioned a
train is
train
coming.
too, so oh my goodness.
Yeah, I'm just giving her the heads up so that she knows I know. Um, but it's when I'm really into something, it's I can't hide it, and that's maybe the good thing about me, or maybe it's the bad thing about me. This depends on how you want to look at it. But I can't hide when I'm enthusiastic about something. So when I talk about playing drums and, you know, use the left and right hand and the left as feet and foot and the right foot and all those changes in rhythm, you can see me, you know, start to smile. And it's about a lot of things. And I guess that's, so yes, I do remember certain things. Like, okay, I can do this to improve certain things. But it's also like, I don't know, it's me. And what I've noticed, and this is really truly funny thing, is so I helped someone record some videos, and then I said, okay, I want to show you what I mean. So I started talking to him, and I can't do anything else than to start in English and go on in English. It doesn't work when I'm in front of a video camera. I can't speak Dutch anymore. I'm so equipped to do it in English, and there's a whole different vibe connected to it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, you know, even when I'm tired, I'm still like, I love it, you know? And it's, yeah, it's insane actually if you think about it. But then again, I've been thinking and writing things down. So I guess English for me is connected to being creative.
Mm-hmm.
And,
different languages are beautiful. I mean, I'm not fluent in any additional languages, but I do know enough to know whether someone's talking about me or not. It's one of those things to where, so like a little bit of German I did over the years. I don't know much of any of it now. I couldn't speak a lick of German if I wanted to. Spanish is the same thing. I can speak Spanish. I know a lot of words, but it's like I get the order mixed up. So I think language is truly beautiful, and it's an expressive art when you use language the right way. Because so here's an old thing, George Carlin. So I grew up listening to old comedians, and George Carlin was one of the greatest ones. He passed away many years ago, but George Carlin was one of those things where he talked about words. Words are his playground. Words are those things that, you know, if one word that is used to hurt someone, the same word can heal. And it's one of those things to where words are powerful when used the right way. And that's the reason why words are important and how you say them. Not as much as what you say, because sometimes what you say can have an impact, both positive and negative. But how you say something truly does have an impact. Because imagine if I said something, like imagine if I just said, hey, Lexi, I want you to smile. What would you do?
Probably I would smile still.
Yeah. But see, now you're giggling. I only asked you to smile, and now you're giggling. So it's one of those things to where it was like, hey, man, you know, why don't we just smile a little bit? Doesn't have the same effect, does it?
Yeah, that's true.
It doesn't have the same effect.
When you ask why people do a positive thing, it's like,
Yeah. The other day I was in a conversation with someone, and I actually had to stop and ask the person. I was like, did you just ask me a question? I was like, because the way you ended your sentence, it sounded like you were questioning what was it you were trying to say. I was like, is that a statement or is that a question? Because I'm deeply confused right now at the inflection of your voice. It's kind of one of those things. So for me, it was so I am formally trained on how to speak. 30, oh my goodness, how many years ago now? 33 years ago. So 33 years ago, when I was in college, one of the biggest courses that I took was public speaking. And it got me to the point to where I actually was the best speaker in the class, and I got to host the college radio station. I got to be the guest speaker, the keynote speaker at one of the major events there at the college. So yeah, there's that formal part of me. Being in the military, I rose through the ranks and made it to the senior levels, and I had to speak on a lot of platforms, a lot of stages, a lot of events. I was an instructor, so I had to teach. So being on a platform teaching, that was one thing. I also taught at the college level. I taught at the military level. Now I'm at a point to where I'm writing courses that the instructors are actually teaching. So I don't have to teach, but I have to write the courses that they do teach. So I still have to be able to effectively communicate back and forth with the instructors on like, okay, what's the plan? What's the end result? What's all these different elements that goes into creating a course? But you have to be able to effectively communicate. And one of the things that I think nowadays more than ever is the ability to communicate. And a lot of people really do not communicate very effectively. Sure, we know words. Sure, we know languages. Sure, we know all these different things. But here's a question for you, and this is something that I have to know because I know it's something that I think you might struggle with just a little bit. So I mean this question in the bestest of ways. When you speak different languages, and I know that you have to do some interpretation, and sometimes certain words don't come out quite the right way, whether it's interpreted or whether it's said the certain way. What do you struggle most with in your communication?
Well, actually, it's not the words I don't know because of translation. It's literally that I draw a blank in my mind. And it could be in Dutch too. So it doesn't matter if it's Dutch or it's English. It's that feeling. I want to get a feeling across. And yes, I do miss a couple of words in English. That's why I'm basically always reading in English and listening in English. So I get that vocabulary. But it's that specific word I'm looking for that has that specific meaning. And because I'm a visual person, I see it in my mind. And if I could just show you what's in my mind, it would be so much easier. But then I have to translate it into words. And that's maybe one of the hardest things to do. When you already see it, you can sense it, you can touch it. And then I have to make it into language of all things. And that's when I pause, sometimes it's because of the words, because I want to get the right word across. So ever since I went to high school, we had to learn at some point that we didn't know all the words. So we had to come up with a description which was close to it. And so when I know there are people around me who can just pick it up like, okay, you can, Bonnie can. So there are few people who instantly know what I'm talking about. That's easy. And I'll tell you something funny. When I am on the game channel with Evan, talking about certain things, and he's there with Drew, Evan has called it, Drew is talking Lady Lexi. And he is. He gets what I'm trying to get across, and that's when I'm typing. And when I'm typing, I'm way worse because I'm like, I skip words, I forget to put in words, and it doesn't matter which language I'm talking or typing, I just forget words, and I don't see it until I hit return, enter. And then I want to go back, and then of course it's already been sent, and that's my main thing, trying to convey a feeling, and do all that stuff. So yeah, do I miss certain words? Yeah, I do. But it's not literally the translation from Dutch to English. Sometimes it's way easier to come up. Well, actually, when I'm speaking Dutch, I throw a lot of English in. And you hardly ever hear me speak Dutch in English. I do it every now and then.
You're speaking Dutchlish.
Yeah, exactly.
That's right, Dutchlish. It's like speaking Spanglish.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And I love it, and I love to learn the expressions. And the most confusing thing is the difference between British and US. And hi, Michael. And I mean, that's like when I'm talking about the GP or the family doctor, I think it's family doctor in the US and it is GP in Britain, or it's vice versa. Now, I don't know anymore nowadays, so I'll just say it straight away one after another. But it's what are you, a visual thinker? I assume you are.
Am I what again?
Are you a visual thinker? Like, do you see all those images?
Sort of. So I don't really... Yeah, I see visual things. So whenever I'm speaking, I'm thinking more along the lines of my memories or my experiences. So for me, it's a memory or an experience. And I've done a lot of things so much, it's so much repetition that I'm familiar with the things that I'm talking about. And I can tweak the words here and there. So a lot of times when you hear me speaking, I'm really kind of saying, I'm paraphrasing, I'm like saying the same thing, just modifying it towards the conversation. And sometimes I'll say things one way in one conversation, and depending on the other conversation, I'll say it a different way because translates well or means something different according to the conversation. So once again, it goes back to what you and I were talking about earlier about being aware of the conversation, being aware of the people that you're talking to, because at the same token, I want to make sure that I'm putting, I don't want to use the word sensitivities, but maybe that could be appropriate. I'm putting certain sensitivities into play here with how I say certain things, because once again, if I just allowed my 15-pound mouth override my 5-pound ass, things might not necessarily come out correctly. So it's being
but it's
aware.
funny every now and then.
It's being aware.
You know, when we're not live, it's so funny.
Yeah, some of my isms.
Yeah, but that's okay too. Well, I'm more metaphorical, and that's the way I try to get things across. And I've noticed that it works for people. And since when you talk meditational style, I'm also very good at doing those meditations, because I'm doing exactly the same thing. When I'm taking someone through meditation, I'll go into all their senses, whether it's hearing or smelling or seeing or touching. And, when I'm starting to do it, then this calmness comes all over me. And I change my voice, I lower it, I go slower. So there's a whole different energy, whether I'm talking to you right now or when I'm doing meditation. But that's all. But I'm very auditive when it comes to listening, and I'm very visual when it comes to trying to get things across. So you know about playing drums, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So So one of the things I had to learn when it came to playing drums is I wasn't allowed to read sheet music anymore. So I started playing the piano from 3 years old. So for me, it's almost more normal than the alphabet is. And then I had to learn to listen with my ears to the drums and everything. So what I started doing, because I always say I have a semi-photographic memory, I know where it's located. So I actually literally saw those notes in front of my eyes. So I saw it instead of listening to it, and at some point I was like, I'm not sure if this is the correct manner. I'm not looking at the paper, but I'm looking at it, on top of my
So I think when you speak with a right cadence, you get, it's like that inflection part. So I think inflection and cadence work well together, and when you can control the cadence, the flow of the conversation, so to speak, and the inflection of that conversation, you can really take people on an emotional roller coaster ride, an emotional journey, if you will. I call it controlling the flow. So when you can control the flow of the conversation, it really, it lets people know, hey, everything's okay. It's calm. It's cool. It's collective. Or if you take things a little bit higher, say, man, I tell you what, another damn thing. It's like, that's energy. That's a different level. That's a different conversation. That's a different thing. So when you're able to go from 0 to 50 really fast, that's one thing. But I say, you know what you have to be careful of is the ability to go from 50 to 100. And I can take you to 100 real quick. And it's one of those things that some people can only go from 0 to 50. But when you can control the entire spectrum, that's where it's truly powerful. And I think that's where a lot of things come into play. So once again, for me, I'm a formally trained, in communications, but I'm also trained in music. So it's one of those things that I've been playing music for 30 years. I play the drums, I play the guitar, I play the piano. I write my own music. I've written my own songs. I have a full recording studio. So it's one of those things to where, yeah, I get it. I understand how you can invoke emotions. Like I can get a lot of emotion out of a single guitar chord. More emotion out of a single guitar chord than some people can get out of 50 notes by shredding.
Yes,
and I'm like, dude, I like, fantastic. Applaud. Hats off. You can freaking move your fingers across a fretboard 1,000 miles an hour. Great. I can take one finger and go, and I can, and it sounds better than your 5,000 miles an hour across the fretboard. I get that. So I remember, you know, I used to watch guitar players avidly, and I wasn't impressed. I was like, okay, that's great, Yngwie Malmsteen. That's amazing. I love his sound. I love the things that he does. I've listened to, you know, guys like John Petrucci. I've listened to, you know, a lot of the big guitar players over the years, and it's one of those things to where even in music, you still control the emotion, you control the outcome, you control the destination, how it starts, how it ends. You've got those main verses, you got that chorus, you got that solo, you got all these different elements that goes into it. I know how to read and write music. I don't, even though I know how, because it's all right there. It's in my ear. I hear an emotion. I have a rhythm pattern in mind, because that rhythm pattern is the cadence and the notes are the inflection. So when you tie that together, once again, even through music, you can speak a whole nother language.
Oh, that's so true. And that's one of the reasons why I love the blues. I mean,
Hmm.
take people like Jeff Healey and Gary Moore. Unfortunately, they're no longer around, but
Yeah, Gary Moore was
they just
amazing.
put those emotions
'Cause
in
I
there.
still got the blues for you. Gary
Yes,
Moore was
and then
awesome.
he would, bend those strings, go up, go down, and that's
Hmm.
what I really love. And well, you probably know then when I say I want to combine coaching with
Hmm.
songwriting, having a song about someone's life and how it can turn into this immense future, and then having it surrounded by all these videos and pictures of what was, what is, and what's going to be, and just literally photographing that statement or that
Hmm.
expression of what they're seeing. That's what I love to do. I love to capture those emotions from people. And
Hmm.
well, I don't have to tell you because you get it. You
Hmm.
get it. I know you do. That's so cool.
I
So
love it.
I do have one question to you in reference to what you said earlier.
Yeah.
So is it a problem for you that I'm not a native speaking English person and that I'm sometimes looking for words?
No, not at all.
Okay.
Not at all. So the thing is that, you know, it's it's like playing horseshoes.
Yeah.
In horseshoes, close is good enough. I'm able to discern what it is that you're after, whether you get all the words in the right order, or you miss a word here or there, whatever the case may be. The thing is that I'm intelligent enough to know where you were trying to go with it. And even if I miss something and you have to go back and no, that's not where I was going with that. Let me rephrase that or reshape that. Okay, great. Once again, it's me to be able to listen so that I can learn. And when I listen, I can learn, I can understand, and then you can be understood.
Yeah. Cool. Cool. And I think it's one of the most wonderful things still, and I've said it before and I'll say probably 1,000 times again, but the fact that we are able to communicate with one another right
Mhm.
now while I'm here in the Netherlands and you're out there on the other side of the Atlantic Ocean.
Mhm.
I mean, wow. That's so amazing. We speak the
Yeah.
same language. We understand one another. When it comes to technology, it's possible, and that's one of the things that I love so much. So when someone came and asked, "Is there a Dutch-speaking person in here?" I was like, "Yeah, I speak Dutch, but we weren't. I do speak in English on the videos because for some reason it comes more natural to me, and I can't explain it
Mhm.
why. I just can only tell you it is." And yeah,
Yeah, that
so
happened to me the other day because I wasn't really in the mood to speak another language, even though I knew what the guy was saying, but I was like giving him this dumbfounded look, like I didn't know what he was talking about. Like, what? But I knew what he said. It was one of those things. I just wasn't in the mood to speak another language. So a lot of times for me, it's a forcing function because I think in English, I speak in English. I don't want to have to translate things. So for me, it's one of those things that I get it. I understand. I think it's powerful to be able to speak other languages because languages are beautiful. There's different words that have different meanings. And I think that when you're able to understand all these different things from different perspectives, it gives you a different perspective. And it gives you a different sense of culture, a different sense of meaning, a different sense of all these things that so many people in this world are missing out on. And I truly believe that when you're willing to go dive down some of these things, like languages and culture and all this stuff, you yourself are putting within your toolkit things that make you more diverse. And I think that's what the world really needs more these days, because look, we have technology, we have tools, we have resources, we have all these opportunities and this, that, and the other, but people are so stuck with where they are that they are not willing to be diverse to go anywhere else.
Yeah, and that's what I love about traveling, being able to
Hmm.
meet other people, have different conversations, see what's going on, and not take things for granted, because we
Hmm.
cannot do it, because it's like before COVID, we took so many things for granted, and then COVID
Hmm.
was there, and then it just all stopped. And
Yeah.
that's the funny thing. So I do have a couple of more questions. I know you want to go to sleep. But here's the thing, and this really struck me when I'm not sure who was Shay talked about it, and she said she had some form of autism where she wouldn't speak when she was growing up, and I was
Hmm.
thinking about it, and was like, yeah, but I know that too, for a while when I was really swamped with things. Uh,
Hmm.
then I only actually wanted to interact by either writing things down or maybe a movement, but I totally didn't feel like talking. But
Hmm.
and just recently I made this little video, and of course we have in Facebook we have those emoticons where you can actually be you as a person and then have certain expression. And I found out that in Apple we have the same functionality. So I knew I could receive messages, but I didn't know how to put it out there. So actually, I recently had a conversation with someone who I'd woken up, not on purpose, but it happened. So I was like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I woke you up. I didn't mean to." So I was like, and he was like, "Okay, relax." So I put it out there on Instagram because I loved that you could just by purely emotions and the expressions, you could actually see like, oh, okay, it's okay, um, but yeah, when it comes to communication and not wanting to really say anything, like you said before, and sometimes we can just look at the person, or we can even not look at a person, but just, write down little words and still get across the communication we want to.
Hmm. So
So,
I can truly relate to that, because let's say, for example, that if we texted each other and I asked you a serious question,
mhm,
I'm looking for a serious answer. But if all I get back is an emoji or K, for example, for okay,
mhm,
there's a couple of ways of looking at that. It's like, one, it could be a sign of disrespect because you didn't take the time to answer me more properly. If all you're going to send me is an emoji or a K, that means that you don't have time for me,
mhm,
or you don't care, or whatever the case may be. But if you took the time to send a message, or you took the time to fully type something out, there's a couple of ways of even looking at that. That could even be a sign of disrespect. It's like, okay, well, you don't value my time. You want me to read this big, gigantic, long thing? No, I'm not reading that. And I've been down that side as well too. So for me, I'm really on both sides of the fence on that. It's like, okay, I get the concept of minimalism, and I also get the concept of I'm not going to read all of that crap. so,
yeah.
so I'm kind of stuck in the middle on that one.
Yeah, it depends on when you have the time to do certain things. I mean,
Hmm.
when I have the time, I don't mind reading, but
Hmm.
normally when I don't expect it, um, and because I read diagonal,
Hmm.
yeah, it does bother me. But it's still way easier for me than a spoken message. So a lot of
Hmm.
people they think that it's okay to leave spoken messages, and I'm like, okay, when do you expect me to listen to it? When I can just read it like, oh yeah, okay. But sometimes,
Hmm.
and this is the thing, what I've noticed is sometimes I want to express certain things, but if we're talking about really serious, sensitive topic, a really hard one, and someone is pouring out his heart, I can, of course, I can say I hear you and hugs and all that stuff, but I usually don't get past the hugs or like, okay, I'm here. Because I could go into everything, and then it's like I'm rationalizing it. And I'm like, you've spoken to me with emotions, and I want to give you that emotion back. And I don't know how to do it any other than just saying, okay, I'm here for you, Ux. That's it. And
Mm-hmm.
it's just a very short sentence, but it's the only way I can respond, because if I would use words, it's like it just doesn't convey what I want to get across.
And that's
And I
where the
hate to
power
use it.
and that's where the power of thank you comes into play.
Yeah.
And you remember that conversation. You and I already had that conversation in the past. And that's where the power of thank you comes into play, because oftentimes when you find yourself in a conversation to where you're expecting an outcome or you're expecting an answer, but you don't get what you expect, that's where the power of thank you comes into play. Thank you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for taking the time. I understand, you know, and it can be overwhelming for both people, especially when you're looking for certain things. And it comes down to, once again, just being thankful, just being grateful. And I think that whenever that is expressed, or at least understood, it hits different. There's a different meaning behind thank you.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And then we get to, are people saying something because of obligation? It's normal to
Mm-hmm.
say, "Oh, how are you? Yeah, fine. How are you?" And that's about it. So it's a formality. It doesn't mean anything.
Mm-hmm.
And that could be with a thank you too, or could you actually see that the person means thank you?
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes people, you can see them waver a little bit, like, I'm not sure.
Yeah. Well,
Let's see about that.
it's a part of
Thank
that
you.
misery loves company conversation as well too. So once again, it depends on the conversation, the connotation of the conversation, the context. Are you really looking for feedback or an answer, or is it one of those things to where you're just looking to vent? And I've had all those types of conversations, even with my dad. Even with my dad, I've had conversations where I just needed someone to listen, and I just vented. Like, Dad, and at the end of that conversation, he didn't deserve that. But at the end of that, I was thankful for that. I was like, and I look at my dad, and I'm like, Dad, thank you for listening. You didn't deserve that, but thank you for being there. And then he'll return fire back on that one and say, that's what dads are for. And,
Yeah.
to listen. And that's what moms are for, to listen. That's what people are there for, to listen. And sometimes that's enough. People just want to be heard sometimes, and that's enough. And I think that whenever that is understood, no feedback is required.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And I think
Mm-hmm.
we should close on this note, because I
Yeah.
always love how you do it. But yeah, it's about listening, giving feedback, and doing it with intention. So if we
Mm-hmm.
could get something across, and to start with positivity and to end with it, then I would say to people out there, to viewers out there, do it with intent. Let it come from your heart. Look people in the eye, and when you can, let it hear through your voice. Yeah, this right there, that's hard. But be there, and pause for a sec, so people know this is me. Thank you. So I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
say to you, thank you, because I love those conversations with you. Don't have to tell you.
I love it. Lexi, thank you very much. I know we went way overboard than what I intended to do, but I truly enjoyed the conversation. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you again.
All right. We'll talk to you soon.
Okay, good night. Sweet dreams.